Sideline Report on your hometown radio station, WPKY, The Tiger. Caldwell Medical Center Sleep Lab offers diagnosis for a variety of sleep problems, including sleep apnea. 1 in every 5 Americans have significant sleep difficulties, which, when diagnosed properly, can be successfully treated. A few symptoms of sleep disorders include fatigue, morning headaches, impotence, frequent urination, irritability, memory loss, high blood pressure, and loud snoring. If you have some of these symptoms, we may be able to help you identify and treat them before they cause more serious health conditions. Caldwell Medical Center offers studies in lab and in your home depending on your insurance company's requirements. Call 270-365-0300 for more information. And a very good Thursday morning at 9:04 through that commercial in there. Good morning, Todd. Todd in the studio with the Sideline Report. How are you?
Good morning, Ty. Well, I'm a little disappointed this week. Found out yesterday I did not get the Tennessee football job.
Well, you and about a couple thousand others. Were you offered it first?
No, I kept trying to throw my name out there, but it didn't work. I think they finally selected their 25th choice, so that's a good way to, fire up the fan base when you can go out and say, hey, this was definitely our guy after the other 25 guys we looked at.
I was listening to some guys, I guess, on ESPN, and they were saying, how would that make you feel if you were 25th down the list?
Oh, exactly, or whatever it was. They threw money at everyone and even had a couple of guys, I think, who had accepted the position, only to find out later Tennessee changed the offer and then backed out. So,
had you ever seen anything like that?
No, that was crazy.
Yeah, I've never seen anything like that.
It doesn't seem like it would be that difficult. As a matter of fact, you would think that most ADs at most colleges have a short list, at least in their head, that if whatever coach leaves, this would be the person or these would be the people I would go after. I mean, you even have to think that Mitch Barnhart at Kentucky has, who's going to be the next guy after Calipari eventually retires, or who's going to be the next guy if Mark Stoops leaves, or whoever. I mean, you kind of have to be prepared. You can't just sit there when, the job comes open and then go, well, who's available? You kind of have to have that list going ahead of time for every position.
No, everybody's expendable, and you're exactly right. And you've all fans that are out there, probably very few of you that are listening out there. But we're not playing Rocky Top this morning, but you would think. But okay, I got to ask you this. I'm kind of embarrassed. Who'd they finally hire? Did they?
Oh, I can't remember the guy's name. I knew you were going.
I was going there. Hey, we can Google that in a second.
Yeah, we'll find it.
But I guess I felt worse for Greg Schiano.
Well, yes, he's one of the guys who actually was hired for the position, and a lot of people say that Brom had actually accepted that position as well from Purdue, and that the AD offered him one contract, and when it went to the school president to approve all of it, they would not approve it. So they had to go back with, well, this is our new contract, and word is that at that point Brom's like, well, I'm going to pass. So.
What about the rumors that Phil Fulmer was always in the background kind of stirring it up and sabotaging the whole process?
I saw a lot of those, and, I really think he wanted his hand in it, and, of course, he ended up with the AD's job out of all of that.
Right.
There was some speculation that Phil Fulmer might end up hiring Phil Fulmer to be the coach, at least on a temporary basis, but you have to look really deep, I think, sometimes for those next up-and-coming guys, and sometimes they're hard to find. I mean, The thing when you start looking for coaches, you need to look at not only what kind of success they've had recently, but what kind of situation they were put in to have that success. Because a lot of guys come into a situation that's really good, ride that, and then get a better job, and when they go into that better job, supposedly better job, it's a building situation.
Right.
Well, they're not equipped to handle that because they didn't have to go through that at their previous stops. They found places where the cupboard was well stocked.
That's right.
Now they go someplace where the cupboard is bare, and it's an entirely different situation. So you have to take a lot into account, and I think sometimes guys just say, well, this guy went 10-2 at a school that's not usually a really good football school. He's a brilliant coach, and, well, maybe he is a really good coach, maybe he's not. Sometimes you have to look at situations.
No doubt about it. And Torrey Hammett just
texted us, Todd, and it says Jeremy Pruitt. He was the Bama defensive
Oh,
coordinator.
thank goodness somebody was listening.
Yeah. So Torrey's got his pulse on the SEC.
Yeah, we don't even need the internet. We'll just have somebody text us all the answers.
Yeah, and we appreciate that. And if you want to text us and say you guys are way off, or if you're not, feel free if you got our text. But you're going to be lucky if you get it. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, I mean that was one of the interesting things I've seen in a while in sports.
Yeah, it was weird, but
yeah.
Again, you have a Tennessee fan base that we talked about last week that's a lot like the UK basketball fan base, and they're not interested, I don't think, in the next up-and-coming coach. They want to hire a name. It's kind of like, well, we mentioned it last week, when Calipari decides he's finished at UK, who is the next coach? Right now, I'm not sure I see it. To me, one name that would stand out is Brad Stevens, who's now the head coach of the Boston Celtics, and was formerly head coach at Butler. He would be on the list, but I would have to think long and hard about putting together a top 3 or 4 for that position, because again, it's not a situation where you can hire somebody and let them learn on the job and give them a couple of years to experiment. Kentucky fans aren't going to take that. Well, I think Tennessee football fans have had their share of losing seasons recently, and it's a program that typically hasn't had any losing seasons and is usually in the conversation, if not for the national championship, at least for the Sugar Bowl or a major bowl, and they haven't been there recently. And so I'm not sure some of those fans think that the next up-and-comer is the guy they want, but maybe that's the guy they need. Maybe they just have to have more patience. And again, though, if you were telling a UK basketball fan, have a little patience, how far would you get with that?
Right. Yeah, and I think you make a good point about Tennessee, because it's been a while, and eventually, 10, 12 years goes by, or however long it is, and then, do you expect that premier, because your national prominence and your national champions are kind of in the rearview mirror at that point,
Yeah, you're looking at the 1980s and 1990s and seeing all the success they had.
Exactly.
Peyton Manning was there, and they were, one of the preeminent teams in the nation.
Exactly.
And it's just difficult to stay there. I mean,
is.
there's so many teams and so many schools now putting so much into it.
Unless you're Kentucky basketball.
Well, and even Kentucky basketball, I think, is, at times, and a lot of that's because they bring so many freshmen in that it's tough to really build anything, but that's just the way things are now. And Calipari has his success doing that. I mean, when you go back and look at last season, and it was a disappointment. They only made the Elite 8. So, when you're consistently in the Final Four, I think that's all you can ask. Everybody wants to win a national championship every year. Everybody wants to win the state championship at high school every year, but I don't think that's realistic. I think when you start stringing together Final Fours, though, it's tough, even for a fan base as demanding as Kentucky's, to sit there and say, well, we should have more national championships. Well, maybe, but, I mean, it's such a tough road just to get to the Final Four that I think when you have those Final Fours, you just hope to keep getting there and maybe every now and then win one.
Yeah. No, I think that's very realistic, and from a it just doesn't work that way. I mean, your view of it as a lover of sports, number one, but a sports journalist is a little different than just a fan. They want to. You're supposed to be there every year. You're supposed to win it every year. It's just all there is to it.
Well, I try to walk that line. I'm sports guy and sports fan. It's difficult sometimes, and I think I weave back and forth across that line a bunch. But I want Kentucky to win. I'm a big UK basketball fan. I'm a big UK anything fan. But I'm a big fan of most of the teams in the state. I pull for Louisville when they're not playing Kentucky. I pull for Murray State. I pull for Western Kentucky.
Yes.
I'm that guy that wants to see them all do well, because what kind of rivalry is it between any of those schools if some of them are bad?
Right.
Do you really want to have a big party over beating a team that's 2-12 and struggling? I mean,
no, you're right.
I think you want your rivals to do well so that when you beat them, it means something.
Exactly.
Maybe I'm in the minority on that. Maybe some people want to see their rivalries crash and burn, but
I like where you're going with that. No, you're exactly right. So, and it's fun. It's fun to cheer on these teams. It's fun, just like we were talking about when Tori was in there a minute ago, it's fun to be out there and see, especially when these teams come in from other places and they bring a few folks from where they're from, to have those really good games going on and people from other places cheering for their team and you're cheering for their team. It's just fun.
Oh, yeah, and you get to see all those good players, too.
Exactly.
And, when we have teams come here, usually those teams have good things to say about our facilities.
No doubt.
So that's also a good thing. I know a lot of teams will come to our football field and will say, hey, this is a really nice facility. We like the tiger being lit up on the side of the school. There's room around the field. You're not just packed in there. It's relatively easy to get into and get out of as opposed to some places. So, there's a bit of a traffic jam right before and right after a game, but nothing.
It clears out pretty quick.
Yeah, nothing that you don't experience just about any place you're going to go.
Exactly. No. What you got an extensive list there, my man.
Well, first of all, big doubleheader sweep for the Caldwell County basketball teams Tuesday night. For those of us who stayed awake long enough to remember both of them, they were pretty late.
they were, and it was a long
for
night
a school night
for us journalists, and sports folks. But it was, great. Went up there, and the girls. I think they only had 8 on the floor, didn't they?
Yeah, they only had 8 players in uniform, so that was a big game. Freshman J.C. Jaggers with 22 points and 11 rebounds to lead the Lady Tigers,
Jada Boyd had a good game,
who beat Crittenden County 55-49, and. Talking about the girls, we mentioned last week, talking about the Lyon County game when they had the lead late in that game and let it get away. Well, the first thing I thought of the other night at Crittenden County when they were up 11 with, 2 or 3 minutes to go, what kind of lessons did they learn? And the game started to get away from them for just a minute, but they were able to settle down long enough. I think Crittenden County got to within 4
I think that's right.
and had the ball with about 30 seconds to go. So the game's not over at that point by any means.
Right.
But the Lady Tigers were able to do enough to hang on and win that game. And to me, that's a growing sign, just from a couple of games ago. Now, the team lost to Christian County Friday, and that was kind of a lopsided game. But Christian County might be the best girls team in the second region this year.
Yes.
I mean, they looked really good. I think they're really well coached. If anybody's going to break Henderson County's string, I think Christian County has a good chance this year. And so that game was probably asking a little much of the Lady Tigers early in the season. But certainly I thought they really competed hard against Lyon County and had a chance to win that game, and then played well at times the other night and were able to hang on and get that win at Crittenden County. So, that's a big win to get. Plus, you kind of get off the schneid a little bit because you don't want to have that offer out there in front of your record. So now that you've got that win, you can kind of relax and just go play.
Yeah, and they have a matchup Saturday against Everett Fort Campbell, I do believe. Is that right? And be good to go in there with a little momentum. And like you said, they had an opportunity there. The game got close, but they figured out a way to.
And they had enough of a cushion to kind of hang on. So
exactly.
That's what I always say. The reason you want an 11-point lead is so you can get beat by 10 the rest of the way and still win the game.
You got it. I love it. So, our ladies are at Fort Campbell.
And should be pretty heavily favored in that game. Fort Campbell's team is kind of weak this season. So, you never know. It's always an interesting experience going down to Fort Campbell. But that's a team that's really struggled and a program that's really struggled in recent years. And that's really a game that Caldwell County, if the Lady Tigers go and play pretty well, they should be able to get that one.
Good deal. And then the guys and the nightcap that I don't know what time they tipped it off, but
the girls' game, the girls' varsity tipped off right at 7. I'm thinking it was close to 8:30, 8:45 maybe before the boys actually got tipped off at Crittenden County. There was a JV game before all that, so everything kind of got pushed back, and it did make for a late night. And when I got back, I had to really get on it to get everything in the paper, and cut my story a little short, but I think I got everything in there.
I walked in somewhere Wednesday, and they said, "Well, do we have a paper this morning?" And I said, "Yeah, I think you made it."
Well, I actually tweeted out, Tuesday from the ball game that the paper was going to be postponed today, and then about 5 minutes later, I started thinking, somebody might not get the
take that seriously.
might not get the humor in that, and so that's why I retweeted out that just kidding.
It's probably good to do that. And then the guys, Darren Boyd, triple-double.
A triple-double, the first person not named Eli Pepper to have a triple-double for the Tiger basketball team. 24 points, 12 rebounds, 11 assists, and he got off to such a good start. I think he had 5 or 6 assists in the first quarter and 10 or 12 points, and 4 or 5 rebounds. So we started the triple-double watch pretty quick.
Yeah.
But, sometimes those things happen out of the gate like that, and then the game goes along, and, it's hard to maintain that pace. But
he was feeling it all
yeah,
game.
we kept watching, and it was really close. And I think there was about 3 minutes left when he finally got that 10th assist. And Caden Fralix, I believe, got a basket to go. It bounced around a little bit, and you were wondering, hey, is it going to fall? Because we're all sitting there going, that's number 10 if it goes in. And it found the bottom of the basket, and that's a pretty big deal. It's kind of a statistical anomaly, but it's fun to look at. And Darian is actually the first person to have a triple-double for Caldwell County's boys using the traditional route of points, rebounds, and assists, because when Eli did it, both times he had those, it was points, rebounds, and blocked shots.
Okay.
And I think Eli had a triple-double against Hopkinsville in the regional tournament.
Okay.
So, that was a pretty big deal, too.
That is a big deal, yeah.
But when you look back through history, and, of course, I think assists came into vogue maybe in the 70s, late 70s, so there were probably some guys that played before then that were really good at passing the ball and getting assists and maybe didn't get credit for it. But at least on record, Eli Pepper had 2 triple-doubles, and now Darian Boyd has 1. So pretty unique company in that category.
Yeah, it is, and congratulations. And I thought the guys played well. I was here doing the commercials, so I was kind of in and out. I fielded a few calls, so trying to pay attention. But yeah, our guys, that's a good win for them.
Well, they got off to a really good start. 70-50 was the final score. Crittenden County tried to make a game of it late in the third quarter, got back to within 11, and you thought, well, if they get it down to single digits, maybe they can make things interesting, but the Tigers never let them get closer than 11. I think it was actually 52-41 going to the fourth quarter. The Tigers were able to push it back out, and I think 21 was the biggest lead late in the game. So they pretty much held that 20-point margin most of the fourth quarter after pushing it out there. So good to get that. John Davis had 20 points.
Yeah. Good game for
a
John.
couple other guys in double figures, so that's a pretty well-rounded effort.
Yes.
Was an interesting dynamic in the game, though, because I thought Caldwell County probably had the better guards. Crittenden County probably had the better inside game. When the Rockets were able to get the ball inside, they were able to hurt Caldwell County, but for the most part, Caldwell's guards kind of controlled that game and were able to put enough pressure on Crittenden County defensively to keep them from getting the ball inside a lot. But, Crittenden County has some nice-looking younger players, so I think they're a couple of years away from being pretty decent in the 5th district.
Team in the 5th district, we had a stoppage of play there toward the end. What happened there? Was it with Darren or Jameer? Or
it was with Darian, and
okay.
I was on the press row, I guess, on the scores table just to the right of it, watching the game. So I had a pretty good view of the game, Tuesday night for the boys.
I could never figure out what exactly happened.
Well, we thought he had blood on him someplace because that's kind of usually when they send somebody out.
Yeah.
No, his shirt was untucked.
Okay.
That's what that entire stoppage was for. That was the entire situation was his shirt tail was out.
Wow.
So we stopped the game and sent the kid off because.
So the ref didn't like his shirt was untucked.
No.
But it's hard when you're playing for that thing.
And that is a rule, and it's supposed to be in, and they make a big deal about that, but that's what it was.
Okay. Oh, well, I didn't know exactly what it was. I heard blood, and I was like, man, what happened?
Well, and Caldwell County tried to take a timeout to put him right back in the game, and the referee said, no, time has to run off the clock before he comes back in. So even taking the timeout doesn't excuse your shirt being out.
Okay.
So that's
they have to tape it down next game or something.
That's the exclusive news on the stoppage late in the game.
Well, congratulations to our ladies and guys. The guys in action tonight. Mayfield coming to town. What do we know about them?
Actually, they're supposed to be pretty good this year. One of the first region preseason rankings I saw had them, I think, number 2 down there.
Okay.
So they're expecting a pretty good year. Tonight's game is actually their season opener.
Okay.
So the Tigers actually have a bit of a head start on the Mayfield Cardinals. The Tigers went down to Mayfield last year and got beat, but it was a competitive game. I didn't think the Tigers played really crisply that night. I think they'll have to play well tonight. I think one of the reasons Mayfield probably hasn't scheduled any games before now is football.
Right.
The two Guthries, who were stars on the football team that, ended up being state runner-up in Class 2A. Their basketball players, Kent Trey Matthews is on the basketball team, the running back. So that's probably why they pushed back the start of their basketball season just a little bit. But they're expecting a big year. Like I said, they're one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the first region going into the season. So I think that will be a big test for the Tigers tonight. But a good chance for the Tigers to see how much they've improved through the first 3 games, because at 2-1, the Tigers looked pretty good against Lyon County, looked good against Hopkinsville, which, some people say is the best team in the second region. For about 2.5 quarters, I think the Tigers ran out of gas that game because Caldwell was playing 5, 6, maybe 7 people, and Hopkinsville's got 12 or 13 they can run in. So I think the Tigers just kind of lost their legs in the third quarter, and Hopkinsville's too talented, for that to happen. It kind of pulled away. The final score looked bad, but it was a 6-point game at halftime, and the Tigers were within a point or 2 in the third quarter before the game kind of got away from them because of that. Tigers, I thought, looked really good at Crittenden County Tuesday night, so this is a good game early in the season to see exactly where the Tigers stand.
Yeah, and that's, of course, there's just it's JV and varsity tonight. JV at Tippett at 6 and the varsity thereafter. So we'll have that game for you here on WPKY as well if you want to tune in and streaming. And
Saturday's girls' games at Fort Campbell will be varsity first at 2 o'clock, followed by the JV. And then when Fort Campbell comes here later in the month, they'll play the varsity first at 6, followed by the JV. I think that's Monday the 16th.
That's the Lady Tiger, right?
Maybe the 18th.
That is the 18th, yeah.
Yes, the 18th.
That is the 18th.
So Monday the 18th. And coming up on Monday night, the 11th, Caldwell County's girls will host Livingston Central at the Cab Gym. And just wanted to point that out because some of the early schedules showed that as Tuesday the 12th.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's Monday night, the 11th, for the Livingston Central game. So, just everyone make a note of that Lady Tigers at Fort Campbell Saturday afternoon, and then home Monday night against Livingston Central.
Okay. Yeah, that is a Monday, December the 11th, and not Tuesday, as some of the early schedules read on that. So, yeah, I think I got mine corrected thanks to you. So, appreciate that. And it's going to be a fun season, I think. Anticipating, when you sent out your basketball issue, we knew that our girls' team was seemed to be a little short-handed. Obviously, they only dressed 8 the other night. It takes 5 to play, and then but they're spunky, man.
Well, you look at the 8 that took the court the other night, and there's one junior that played, and she scored 2 points. So that means the other 53 points in that game came from sophomores and freshmen.
Yeah, and I know a lot of those. Like JC had that big game. There's a freshman there, but Shelby Lane was a contributing factor as well. I'm just naming some of the names that kind of
Jada Boyd had 14 points.
So there's a lot to be. A lot of promising aspects out of that game the other night.
Shelby not only had some points, but got her picture in the paper. So.
Yes, she did. So, and check out the Times Leader because Todd's got some really good write-ups. Like
I said, had to cut the story just a little bit short. Ended up using an extra picture or two, so that's always good, but didn't have the chance to go into as much detail on the game story as I wanted, but was able to get the sports section done and get the newspaper to the New Era about 12:30 Wednesday morning, and I think we had our paper up online about the same time, 12:30. So I'd like to have that up by midnight, but just couldn't quite get everything done as quick. And fortunately, we don't have a deadline as tight as some papers do, or might have missed that game. But I know a lot of papers anymore, and sometimes people complain about sports coverage or the lack of sports coverage in papers, and part of that is because anymore papers have moved their deadlines up. So many papers, daily papers, own a lot of weekly papers or community papers, and they print all those, so everybody's deadline gets shoved up. And some papers have deadlines of 7 p.m. in the evening.
Wow.
So for their next day paper. So there's no way to get.
If you're tipping it off at 8, you're not making.
Right. I mean, you're not going to get it. And even if you have an 11 p.m. deadline, like some of the dailies have, it's really tough because you're looking at ball games. If you're lucky, they get over by 9 o'clock. If you're not lucky, it's 9:30 or 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
That's not much turnaround time when you're trying to get a story written and pictures done and pages laid out and get those things sent to the newspaper and to the printers and get it on the press. And
Exactly.
There's just a lot that goes into,
Getting that done.
getting the paper out,
Yeah.
whether it's every day or twice a week or once a week or whatever. And like I said, we're fortunate in that, I could probably go until 1 or 1:30 if I had to. I'm not sure the press guys at the Kentucky New Era would appreciate me going much later than that.
Yeah.
12:30 is not bad. My goal is usually to have the paper over by midnight to give everybody a little time to, not be rushed and get it on the press and get it printed. But I think I got out of the gym over at Marion just a little after 10 o'clock Tuesday night.
Mm-hmm.
So it was 10:35, 10:40. By the time I got back to the paper, by the time I actually sit down and had everything in front of me, it's almost 11 o'clock when you start writing the stories and doing the box scores and going through and seeing what kind of pictures you have and then trying to put all that together.
I'd say getting that together an hour and a half is pretty
that was pretty good, yeah.
Pretty good.
Like I said, I wish I would have had a little more time to flesh the story out a little bit, but I think I got all the details in, and sometimes you can't write the big story. You just have to go with the short, quick details. And, of course, Darian Boyd's triple-double was, I thought, the thing to lead with.
Yeah.
The girls getting a big win, right there. So it was just a big night all around.
It was.
I'd rather have those games to write than, 20-point losses. I mean, I always tell all the coaches, it's a lot more fun for me when you win because those stories are a lot easier to write than, you come back and, take the football loss to Elizabethtown. Those games are tough to write.
Yeah,
and,
that's
you don't want to see those. If you're the local sports guy, you don't want to see those.
No, I totally get that, and it's a downer a little bit. It's not a little bit; it's a lot of downer. So, well, yeah, it's going to be a fun year, and congratulations on those wins. And let's get some more W's as we head into the season.
And as I mentioned before, a lot of home games this year for both the Tigers and the Lady Tigers. A lot of that, thanks to the West Kentucky Hoops Classic. The Lady Tigers will get 3 home games in that. The Tigers will get 2 at the end of this month. So I remember a few years back, looked at the local schedules, and
2 or 3 home games.
The girls had 8 home games, I think, out of a 25-game schedule, and that's not really fair to your team or your fans or anything when you're playing on the road that much because your fans want to come out and watch. The teams want to play at home in front of the home crowd.
Shoot, yeah.
And, sometimes it just works out where you don't have all those games at home, but we all like the home games. So I'm tickled to death to have the tournament here.
That's going to be fun. Did you hear? I mean, of course, I know you've talked to Tori and are involved in some of this, but, man, that's going to be 2 great days of basketball.
And we got Larry Vaught to mention it in his column, and he's in a whole lot of papers around the state. So just trying to drum up support for that. I know a lot of people come to the Hoop Fest out at Marshall County, and that's a big deal. And they're definitely ahead of the game as far as putting together the big events.
It's been going on a long time, though.
But Caldwell County is doing a really good job of, with 2 days to work with and only having those 7 game slots available each day. That's a pretty impressive lineup.
It is, and some of the talent that's going to be on the floor from these academies and even some of these high school teams. It's going to be a fun 2 days, and want everybody to go out and watch it. And I'd forgotten. Tori was saying, Caldwell County students get in for free.
Oh yeah,
so why not? I mean, grab you some concession money and go on out and camp out for the whole day.
And again, there's a lot of Caldwell County games in that. The Lady Tigers will play 3 times. The Tigers play twice.
Yeah.
So, not only do you get to see all these other kids that are coming in that are outstanding players that you're going to see playing on TV in college in the next few years, but it is a chance to support the home teams, and that money goes to the athletic department and helps fund the basketball program. So that's always good, too. I'm not sure some people realize just how much money you have to put into your sports program when, you start talking football, basketball, baseball, softball, volleyball, soccer, all those programs. You could sit here and the list goes on. It costs money. Every time there's a game, you have to pay game officials. Somebody has to pay for the lights to be on. The electricity, all those things, it all costs money. And over the course of a season, we talk about all these home games, but the one thing when you're the home team, you're responsible for paying the officials.
Right.
Well, that could be $150 a night, conservatively speaking, if not more, just to pay the referees.
Exactly.
So, at $5 a pop to get in, it takes quite a few people just to cover the officials.
Exactly. And we want you to go out and in person and see the Tigers as much as possible. This West Kentucky Hoops Classic is going to be something else. I'm excited about it. The Tiger will be on hand to bring you the Caldwell County games, I know, and we're just excited about it.
Well, and a couple of congratulations this week. Coach David Barnes named the state Coach of the Year for Class 3A by the Kentucky Football Coaches Association. Not the first time he's gotten that award, but I think this season going 10-3 and reaching the regional championship game was, a pretty big accomplishment for the Tigers because, quite frankly, I saw a lot of preseason predictions and people were expecting the Tigers to win 6 games, maybe 7, maybe finish 3rd in the district. Some of that was out there. I was really surprised, actually, when some of the preseason rankings came out that Caldwell County was in there at 9 and 10 in some of the polls, and I think that's just a tribute to the success they've had the last 5 or 6 years. But a lot of people expecting the Tigers with a brand-new offensive line, having to play a new quarterback. People thought the Tigers would be pretty good on defense, but thought the offense might struggle. So, again, more than one person said to me, what do you think, 5 or 6 wins this year? And I think pretty much my standard answer was I thought this past season would be a lot like the previous year when the team went 8-5. I thought that was pretty good, gauge on where the team might be this year. So to go 10-3 and to make it to the regional championship game, that was a pretty strong season.
Very strong season. Congratulations to all those guys. And, of course, Coach Barnes and I think Coach Mack and Will, they'll be coaching up in the Bluegrass.
Yeah, the best of the Bluegrass.
Best of the Bluegrass, up, and that's at Elizabethtown this Sunday.
Yes.
And then we have 2 Tigers playing in it as well. We've got Cole Baker, defensive lineman, and linebacker Hunter Van Hooser.
Yes. Both of those were late additions to the squad. Not sure why they didn't get on there originally, but certainly they both deserve to be on that team and both deserve to play some and hopefully showcase some talent. And hey, you never know who's out there watching.
No, that's exactly right. And, it's fantastic that Caldwell County's well represented, as they should be, at that All-Star game this Sunday.
And had 11 people on the All-WKC team. So
what a night that was.
So it's just a big season for the football team. And also want to congratulate Taylor Whalen, who announced this week she's going to get to play volleyball at Midway University.
Yeah.
So
congratulations.
The Lady Tiger volleyball team putting another player into the collegiate ranks, and I can't remember now how many there are, but there's a bunch of them. I mean, they've had a lot of players sign and go on to play college volleyball.
They have, and that's and really, relatively speaking, for our volleyball program, still it's not quite in its infancy, but it's been around a while now. But still, it's one of those that. Man, it had a great starting foundation, and it just keeps continuing and continuing.
And they've won several regional championships.
Exactly.
They've won the All-A Classic regional championship every year they've been eligible for it.
Yeah.
Won a state championship in 2010, I believe. Sometimes the numbers get mixed up in my brain, but the only public school in the state to ever win a state championship in volleyball of any type. Typically the Louisville private schools dominate those things, or the up north private schools, I like to call them, up around Cincinnati. But, again, just a big feather in the cap of the Lady Tiger volleyball program, which went 27-10 this last year, and regional runner-up to Henderson County.
Had a great run.
And 28-10, I think, the year before, and regional runner-up to Henderson County. So Henderson County continues to be the bugaboo there, but when you look at 27-10 and 28-10, it's tough to argue with that.
Tough to argue with that. You're excited. You're the Rain Man of sports. You know that?
I hope some of that was actually right.
I love it.
I think I've written some of those things, so sometimes they stick.
None of this stuff. None of this stuff is written down. He's just pulling it off the top of his head. Impressive.
Well, I do have some things written down. But the main thing I wanted to get to, and we've teased this for a couple of weeks, so I know you're ready. We had an extra week.
I've got a list here.
But just for fun, the top 5 concerts we've ever been to. You want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
I'll go first. And it was actually this summer. I've been a U2 fan since the early '80s when I first heard of this little Irish band.
Yes.
And I think I was watching. I guess I can say the name. It's called The Last American Virgin.
Okay.
That movie back
Yeah.
in the 80s. And I heard I Will Follow in that movie. And, man, I was like, man, that sounds great. Who is this band? And so I think I waited for the credits to run back then. You ran for credits, and you see what it is.
I'll see who did the music.
Yeah. And the song was I Will Follow. And I'd heard of Boy, and I'd heard of some of those earlier albums. And so Nickelodeon ran a live concert, U2 Live at Red Rocks. And it was filmed in 83. And so I was hooked. And finally got a chance to see those guys. I saw the Joshua Tree tour this past summer. And so that's probably, and I went ahead and went for my number one. That's my number one on the list.
One of the best Saturday Night Live performances I've ever seen was U2, and it was like a Christmas. It was like the week before Christmas or 2 weeks, and they just killed it. To me,
oh yeah, and I mean they just, it's just fantastic, you know. And I'm not a big arena show guy. I'm not. I like small venues and in tight spaces, but you know, that was a big arena show. I was in Louisville. I was up at the the Cardinals. What do they call it? Papa John's.
Yeah.
And incredible.
Well, I agonized over my list for a long time. My number one was obvious, though. It was Kiss.
I knew it.
June 30th, 1996, Freedom Hall in Louisville. It was right after the original guys had got back together. They opened Friday night at Tiger Stadium in Detroit.
Wow.
The following night, they played Freedom Hall in Louisville.
Man.
And I was there about 16 rows back, right in front of the stage, when the curtain drops, and I'm staring right at Paul Stanley and Ace Frehley and Gene Simmons and Peter Criss.
Yeah, I mean, the originals.
So that was awesome. And I listened to Eddie Trunk on the radio a lot on XM. And he had a guy that has done this Kiss book talking about all the concerts they've done, which, can you imagine in the last 40-something years how many concerts they've done?
Yeah.
And he talked about how that tour, when they first got back together, the first night was kind of a mess because, you know, it was still the first night. They were trying to iron things out. But he said the second night, and he went to these shows, he said they played in Freedom Hall and said it was a great show. And I'm like, yes, I was there.
You were there. Yeah.
It was awesome. So for a guy who grew up, you know, I had Destroyer on 8-track.
Yeah, I talked about 8 tracks this morning.
You know, I know I sound 80 years old at this point.
No, it's okay. We just lived it, man.
But that was like the first thing I ever heard. The first song I remember hearing, you know, from Kiss was Detroit Rock City. If you've ever had the Destroyer album, and you know, you hear the guy get up and you hear him have breakfast and turn on the TV and get in the car and turn it on, and
heck, I mean, yeah, man, I'm with you. I'm with
you.
I dig it.
So I can't put anything at number one besides Kiss.
No, I would say that for a young man in 1996 to see them, it is awesome.
I've seen Kiss, I think, 6 times
Especially
in different incarnations,
like that,
but that was the originals. I mean, that was one of those things where you thought they'll never get back together, and boom, they got back together. And I'm like, I'm going to this.
Oh yeah, I hear you, man.
So that's number one.
That's hear you.
But I hope you're probably like me.
No, I'm going to make you do your number 2. Then
okay.
Well, we're going backwards, or do you want to go back to number 5?
Well, it's going to take me a while because I think I've decided I have a 4-way tie at number 2.
See, okay. Well, you go ahead.
Because I can't differentiate these concerts. I saw Metallica in 2009 at Bridgestone, and they were awesome. But the thing that has always stuck out and puts this show over the top is that at the end of it, and they played forever. I mean, it seemed like they played forever, which was fantastic. They said they had, you know, a buddy of theirs was going to come out and jam with them. It turned out to be Lemmy from Motorhead.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
So I never got to see Motorhead, but I saw Lemmy do 3 songs with Metallica in Nashville.
That's pretty good.
So I can't. The other one was Iron Maiden and Megadeth opened for them in Nashville in 2013.
You're giving away that you're a metalhead, man.
A little bit. It gets better, though, I think.
Okay.
First of all, Iron Maiden is one of my favorite bands.
Iron Maiden.
I mean, how do you not like Iron Maiden?
I love Iron Maiden.
And Megadeth is super.
Somebody's out there going, "Who's Iron Maiden?"
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
Well, look them up, and listen to some songs. You know, pull up "Wasted Years" or something, or "Run to the Hills." Yeah. That's a good entry song.
I'm a Flight of Icarus man.
I love that song.
I love Flight of Icarus.
Just great album after great album, but there's so much that you have to start somebody someplace.
That's right.
I remember that week. That was a fantastic week because it was the same week as Caldwell County's big trip to Greene County for football.
Oh, yeah, and the Druthers trip.
And the Druthers trip.
Yeah,
So
man.
in 1 week's time, I got to see Iron Maiden and Megadeth. I got to
my
go to
gosh.
Druthers. I got to watch the Tigers put on a show, and Brett Seymour, I think, kicked a 51-yard field goal up at Greene County.
Dude, you had to pinch yourself, didn't you?
Yes, that was like the best week ever.
I'm telling you.
So they've got Iron Maiden and Megadeth on there.
That
Just,
deluxe quarter.
you know, love Iron Maiden, and just Megadeth opening for them was insane.
Why not?
The Eagles at Rupp Arena in Lexington, 2015, and I'd always wanted to see the Eagles, never had the chance. Wasn't really fired up about driving to Lexington to watch them, but my brother kind of talked me into that. My brother Chris was really fired up about this concert, so I reluctantly agreed to get tickets and go, and man, thank goodness I did, because the show was incredible, and it was just a few months after that. That was July of 2015. It was January of 2016 that Glenn Fry died.
Yeah.
So
complications of rheumatoid arthritis, I think.
So thank goodness I went to that concert. I've got that up there. And then to try to find a fifth concert was difficult. I've got Aerosmith on here, again at Bridgestone in Nashville. This was 2012. Doesn't seem like it was that long ago, but man, Cheap Trick opened for them, and they were fantastic. But the thing that put the Aerosmith concert over the top for me, you know, you can go on the internet now and look at the concert lists, and so we looked at the list, and they'd been opening with Mama Ken, and then playing some great stuff, but no Toys in the Attic, which might be my favorite. If Dream On's not my favorite Aerosmith song, Toys is.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole time I'm like, man, I wish they would put Toys in there somewhere. For my money, they could put Toys in there instead of Mama Ken as the first song. That'd be fantastic. So all the way down there, that's all I wish they'd play Toys. Get there, the concert starts, and of course, before they come out, they show on the screens the guys in the back, which is pretty cool. You get to see them getting ready, you know, coming out.
Yeah.
So you know when they're going to hit, you know, the lights go down, the music starts, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's not Mama Ken. That's Toys, you know, and I'm jumping up and down. Of course, everybody's looking at me like I'm nuts, because I was like, what?
Your night was made.
I'm waiting for Dude Looks Like a Lady, and I'm like, and I'm jumping up and down because they're playing Toys as the opening song. So that's my other concert. And, you know, with all due respects to Motley Crue and Alice Cooper and even Gordon Lightfoot, Warrant, and one of my favorite concerts ever was just last year, Weird Al Yankovic at the Carson Center in Paducah.
The guy's brilliant, man. I'd love to.
And the thing is, it wasn't a sellout. I mean, it was a really good crowd. The guy came out and performed like he was at a packed Yankee Stadium in front of a TV audience of 2 million people around the world. And, I mean, he just nailed it. He just destroyed the show. I mean, he just was awesome.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, here's a guy in Paducah, Kentucky. It's not even a sellout. And everything he's got and everything his band's got is in this show, and it was super. So
that's awesome.
So that's me. Okay, your turn.
Yeah, I'll go the rest. Well, there's this band. I had to be real secret about it because I didn't want anybody to know they were in town. I'm talking about Johnny Fish and the Fins.
Oh wow.
No, I'm sorry. That's for my Happy Days fans out there. But no, and it's neat that our musical taste. I'm sure it's on the same musical taste, but it's interesting to see. One of the best concerts I ever saw was Wilco at the Ryman Auditorium in 2006. I've seen him down there several times. I love the Ryman. I think it's one of my favorite venues.
Yeah.
That's about the largest size I like. I mean, I don't Bridgestone's, you know, and large arena shows.
You know, Cat Stevens was down there last summer.
Did you get to see Cat?
No, I'm still kicking myself. It was on a Tuesday night, and it was tough to get away, and I wish I'd gone. I'm kicking myself over that.
And I mean, the nice thing is we're not too far from some great cities, you know, especially Nashville. Everybody comes there for the most part.
Cat Stevens.
I know, man. You know,
when are you ever going to get that chance again? And I blew it.
Yusef Islam.
Yes,
that's his real name. But yeah, he's unbelievable. And but yeah, I saw Wilco at the Ryman in 2006, and of course Wilco, Jeff Tweedy and Jay Farr, they used to be Uncle Tupelo, and they formed in about the time we were in college and in school in Belleville, Illinois. And so one time I was at the Carbondale Halloween, and there was this poster there. I remember saying Uncle Tupelo, and I looked down the street, and they're playing like on the street, and I was like, man, they sound great. But that's kind of where my interest in them came. And then Bruce Springsteen in Nashville. I forget what year it was. I told you I'd look up the years, but I didn't.
I bet that was a good one.
Well, yeah, and I saw him in Rupp too, and what I was kind of like you at Rupp. I waited all day to be on the floor, and I was probably between here and the window to Bruce.
Oh, wow.
And I also had tickets up in the stand, and I got so claustrophobic. I was right in the middle. I mean, there was no way to get out. And finally, I decided to go sit in the seats up in the upper part of the arena. I mean, it's just I was freaked out. But I mean, I could have. Bruce and I could have shook hands. I was so close to him. But that was the thing about Nashville was he did the Born to Run album consecutively.
He does a long show anyway,
yeah,
right?
Oh, yeah. It's 3.5 hours. But the neat thing about this Nashville show was he did the Born to Run album in succession, so that was pretty cool. Then the Police at Churchill Downs with my brother. When they got back together, that was cool to be in Churchill Downs out and seeing the Police. And I'll go through mine quickly. And then from Rush to the Rolling Stones several times to REM to Drive-By Truckers and Sunvolt. Those were just, different things. I mean, I've got them everywhere, but the thing is that with music, man, it's just it just touches you whenever you get to see somebody. So it's hard to put those in order, but those are at least kind of up there.
No Wild Stallions reference?
No, not at this point. There might be here a little bit, but let's take a break. We'll regroup from our concerts. Let everybody kind of ease that in and go, And I figured we might get a text.
I didn't even mention Guns N' Roses. I didn't mention Elton John, who was super.
And you just saw him.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd love to see Elton. I didn't get to see Elton.
Well, again, that was one of those. He was in Evansville. When are you ever going to get this chance again? He might not ever tour again.
He might not.
So I just felt like I had an obligation as a citizen of the United States and the world to go to that concert.
Why not?
I had to.
And I heard it was excellent. There were quite a few folks from Princeton up there at that one. So let's take a little break. We'll take a short commercial break here on the Sideline Report. Todd and I are going to regroup. We'll come back, and we're about 10 minutes to 10, and we're glad you're with us today on the Sideline Report on your hometown radio station, WPKY The Tiger. Back in a moment.
Here at McGregor Group Heating and Air, we are so proud to be a part of this community. We want to thank you for the opportunity to serve you for all of your heating and air needs. McGregor Group Heating and Air specializes in residential, new construction, and light commercial installations, also servicing most makes and models. We offer fast service with polite and friendly staff. We provide our customers with a peace of mind by offering the best warranties in the industry, along with high-quality products. McGregor Group Heating and Air is located at 960 Varmint Trace here in Princeton. Give us a call today at 270-896-5044. We're the company that you can take comfort in.
Have you been a victim of debit or credit card fraud? Farmers Bank & Trust can help lessen your risk of getting taken advantage of. As our customer, you have exclusive access to a security feature in our app that will allow you to turn your debit card off while you're not using it, then turn it on instantly when you need to use it. Keep your information safe. Log into our free app to use this feature, increasing the security of your information right now. Not a Farmers Bank customer? Come down. Let us set up your account and start protecting you from potential fraud opportunities. This is not a guarantee that your information will not be compromised. This is an increased security measure. Farmers Bank & Trust, member FDIC.
This is Gail Cherry. I'm a board member for Community Medical Clinic located at 310 Hawthorne Street in Princeton. Community Medical Clinic's goal is to provide access to excellent health care services that are both convenient and affordable in our local community. Community Medical Clinic is taking new patients every day, and walk-ins are welcome. The clinic is open Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. to serve you and your family members of all ages. All insurances are welcome, as well as patients with no insurance. Community Medical Clinic, providing health care services at your convenience at no extra cost.
And Todd Griffin, Ty Engelbright back here on the Sideline Report. We had just wrapped up kind of talking about some of our favorite rock and roll shows. We kind of shifted gears from the sports. And you said something about the Wild Stallions.
Oh, yeah, that's a Bill and Ted reference, if anybody remembers that. It was actually on TV just the other night.
Okay. So I was like, I know I'd heard that somewhere, and it's Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, okay, I got it. Somebody hopefully caught that out there. That's
Well, I should have come in an hour early, and we could have done our best concerts before, and then we could have done an hour of sports, but I didn't think about that.
Somebody just texted. Let's see what they say. And I don't put them on the air. Something about we should do something.
And I'm sure at some point I'll think of another concert that I went to, and I'll be like, oh, that should have been in the top 5.
Oh yeah. I think I could go on forever. Yeah, and somebody just said, it was my brother, actually, you and Griff should do a top 5 sporting events.
Oh,
So-
wow.
So, where are we done? And yeah, that's a good idea.
But, I've also seen the Oak Ridge Boys. I've seen the Statler Brothers. So it's my list is kind of
It's
a
diverse.
little, it's, my top 5 was a little metal heavy or heavy metal.
Yeah. yeah. I mean, and I'm kind of the same way. I've seen some stuff, too, like that. But you've got a little sensitive side there too,
Well,
and classic.
yeah, I don't like it. I'm not a big fan of, trying to shoehorn music into categories.
Right.
I just kind of like what I like, and
I think it should be that way.
I think most people are that way. Actually,
I do too.
Maybe they don't want to. Most people probably won't admit to listening to the Carpenters sometime, but hey, every now and then
Let me
I
tell
want to
you
hear the Carpenters. So
Hey, man, when I was 7, Captain and Tennille were it for me, man. I'm serious. Man, I mean, the Captain could work magic on
Oh,
the
yeah.
keyboards, man. I'm telling
you you just like what you
And
like.
Tony
It's-
Tennille, my gosh. I mean, I was 7 years old. I was like, man, I'm in love with Tony Tennille.
I've seen Willie Nelson.
Oh, I have too, man.
That should have been on there probably.
I want to get all the Outlaws. I never saw Waylon. I saw Willie and David Allen Coe and of course Hank Jr. and a lot of the Outlaws. I still need to see Billy Joe Shaver. Let me see him.
I listened to the Charlie Daniels Band quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
I mean, so while my list seems like it's tilted one way, it's really not as bad as that.
No, I think I catch a drift, man.
But seeing Aerosmith do Dream On, oh man, that was
It's awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's great what those concerts put into your head, and just like that, good sporting events like this, like my brother said. To me, it's whether it's a song or a movie or even to replay. I love going back. I mean, that's what's great about YouTube. Going back and just like we did those plays, it's almost like a song to see some of those great plays or those great calls over.
oh yeah.
I love Vin Scully's call of the Gibson home run. I mean, I watch that. I pull that one up every now and then just to watch it because I know, here's Gibby. He's all hobbled up.
Oh yeah.
And I kind
He
of
can't run. I
No,
mean,
I-
he literally can't move.
And I followed him all season long. I'm not a Dodgers fan. I just followed it. He had a great season that year.
Yeah.
And here he was hobbled. They made it to the World Series, and he wasn't going to play. And then next thing you know, there's the Italian wizard over there on the bench, Lasorda, said, put your uniform on. And then he comes out to bat. It's magical, man.
Yeah, the most improbable thing happened. I think that's why we
That's what
all
he said,
watch
yeah.
sports. That's
Yeah.
why we love sports.
Yeah.
If you knew going to the event that one team was going to win by 30 and that was all that was going to happen.
go.
Yes, I mean, I think at some point we all pull for the underdog. We all pull for the improbable. We all want to see that moment, and sometimes it comes out of nowhere. It's not predictable. You just, you watch the games, and whether it's high school or college or pros or whatever team you pull for, you just you always have hope, and you want to be there when that moment happens.
Exactly, and it's just like I said, it's and I think it's interesting that you can put great concerts that you've seen in those moments because you don't get those moments all the time, and it's just like a great sporting event, a great play, and you can if you can replay them either in your mind or now there's so much video out there.
Oh yeah,
it's great. So
that Kiss concert is actually on YouTube.
yeah,
If you look up
One from-
Kiss
one from,
1996 Freedom Hall in Louisville,
you watch the
you
whole
can
thing?
watch the whole thing.
I gotta check that.
It's
out,
not the
man.
greatest video, but I mean it's all there.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's what's out there. from
And
time to
usually, if you go to a concert now, by the time you get home, you can
Yeah, everybody-
rewatch.
Yeah, everybody's filming it. Yeah, it's amazing.
Again, it's not the best quality, but at least you kind of have a reference point.
no cameras, no flash photography, and no video.
Yeah,
as soon as the lights go out.
It's tough to, they used to always say that, and, people try to sneak a camera in just to get a couple of shots, but anymore with everybody's phones, I mean, how do you,
Yeah.
you might as well just encourage it.
Sure, why not?
You know?
And there are some that do. I think.
Yeah.
Film this and then send it, upload it to our site. Yeah, it's amazing.
But I'll admit, it's kind of bad when you're sitting on the floor, but you're toward the back, and the band comes out, and all you can see is the back of everybody's hand where they're holding their phone up.
I know.
So sometimes that's not great, but at least you do have that
That's right.
memory that you can always go back and I try to video just a little bit just for my own
Yeah,
personal
yeah.
keepsake, but
Yeah.
I don't want to sit there and hold my camera the whole concert to try to record something. And
No, I don't either.
you want to watch and have that memory. You don't want to
Exactly.
hey, remember when I videoed that? That's not the memory you want. You want the memory of, hey, I was standing there watching.
That's right. Hey, I don't know. Is next week? Yeah, if Thursday is a week from today is going to be the premiere of Star Wars: Last Jedi. I'm gonna try to get Chewbacca in studio.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
I'm gonna try to. So maybe give us a little.
Will he bring a translator?
I don't know.
Will Han be here to tell us what he's saying?
I think all the only agent I've contacted is Chewbacca's. So.
But the thing is it really the Last Jedi? Or is the next episode going to be Star Wars? Hey, we found another Jedi.
I think when we leave there after you see it, I don't think we're going to know twixt between what's going on. I think everything's going to be up in there. I think this guy's going to set us up for the last one.
Did you feel a little cheated though at the last one when you're, the whole premise is, hey, we get to see the old gang again. It's kind of like they're back in action. And then Luke's whole time was turning around and looking.
Turns around and he
no
looks like
no commentary, no lines. It's just he was there.
I was,
I was a little disappointed.
I was like, what in the world? Yeah, I was. I mean,
and we never got the big Han Luke moment.
No, and we won't unless it's a hologram or something.
Well, yeah, he could be. Well, he could be anything, I guess, but
that's coming out next Thursday.
I think there's a way Han could still sneak into these movies some way.
Oh no, there's no doubt. There's no telling. Disney with the creative rights to these things now, and
we're going to get one every year. I mean, Disney's got to make back its $1 billion or whatever. So
be interesting. Okay, we got a few more minutes for sports.
Well, we finally learned where everybody was going to their bowl games, and.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we did not get our Purdue-Kentucky game in the Music City Bowl, and it's going to be Kentucky and Northwestern.
Yeah. What kind of team? Northwestern made a bowl last year, didn't they?
They did.
Yeah.
Actually finished the season this year with 7 straight wins.
That's right.
A team I don't know a lot about them, but I know they're really tough against the run. They had one of the top-rated defenses in the nation against the run this season. Well, that's what Kentucky wants to do.
Exactly, yeah.
Northwestern actually opened a 6.5-point favorite, but bowls always come down to who wants to be there. Mm-hmm. And the Music City Bowl this year is going to be interesting because I think Northwestern at 9-3 thinks they deserved better than the Music City Bowl. So are they going to be really fired up for it? I think Kentucky at 7-5, and the way the season kind of skidded off the tracks toward the end, is the fan base really going to be that excited to go to the Music City Bowl? Are the Cats going to be that fired up about it? A lot of times when you watch these bowl games, you can look at records or rankings or whatever, but the team that wins is the team that's excited about being in whatever bowl it is.
Right.
Well, which team is that going to be? Is it going to be Northwestern, or is it going to be Kentucky, or is it going to be neither one of those?
Yeah. Well, you go through the entire process. I mean, at least I can see where Northwestern with their record saying, well, maybe we should have done better. But
I think they felt like they should get the Holiday Bowl,
right.
And either Michigan or Michigan State, a team that Northwestern defeated, got put in the better bowl.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but Michigan's probably going to draw more than a Northwestern.
True.
And I think
that's probably true.
I think that's what they're looking at. I mean, it's all about the Bucks. That's all there is to it.
But I wonder how much a Kentucky Northwestern game is going to draw to Nashville.
I agree. I mean, I don't think it's going to be like. I don't think it's going to be near as nor if it was. Even though I'm taking the Caldwell County Princeton aspect out of Kentucky Purdue, I think the Kentucky Purdue game would have drawn more.
Oh yeah.
But you've got you've got the name out there. People. Where is Northwestern? It's up east somewhere.
Near Chicago.
Near Chicago, yeah. It is Chicago.
Evanston?
Yeah, Evanston, Illinois. Mike Greenberg is an alumni.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, from
ESPN.
Yeah, so he follows them everywhere.
So that'll be interesting just to see. I mean, you say 6.5 points. To me, that's a one-score game. Those can always go either way. Again, just how do they match up against each other because you're playing somebody you don't typically see or scout or any of those things? I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and look. Certainly not recently.
No.
I can't remember it.
No, I know. It'd be interesting to see if they've ever played before or if they have, when it was.
But again, which team is going to be enthused about being in the Music City Bowl? Purdue, meanwhile, ends up in the Foster Farms Bowl, which I think the Boilermakers and their fans would probably say that's better than the Music City Bowl.
Yeah.
Because that's out in California. It's the stadium the 49ers play in now. Purdue has won 3 of its last 4 games to get to 6-6. They will play an Arizona team that is 7-5, but lost 3 of its last 4 games to kind of fall into that bowl. So, I think Purdue's looking at that as, hey, we're going to California and playing in a bowl game, and again, you don't know how Arizona is seeing that game.
Who's favored right now? Do you know?
I haven't seen a favorite. I know Arizona typically runs for a lot of yards. Arizona has one of the best rushing offenses in the nation at 324 yards a game. Purdue held 4 of its last 5 opponents under 100 yards, and the Purdue defense has typically been pretty stout this year. So Arizona's averaging almost 42 points a game. Purdue doesn't score that many points, but again relies on its defense some. So it'll be interesting to see if that game turns into a shootout or if the defenses can keep the offenses in check.
Yeah, and I think, as we got into the latter part of the season with Purdue, of course you had the platooning of the quarterbacks, and then Elijah settled in there late for the last at least 2 games, right? 2 or 3.
Yeah, David Blau had the injury, and Elijah kind of took over and I think settled in.
Exactly.
When you're not looking over your shoulder, and I think that went for both of them all season.
Sure.
Once one of them was able just to take that job and decide, hey, it's mine, and you don't have to worry about making a mistake and being pulled, you can go out and play a little freer. And I think that's, we've seen Elijah play pretty well the last couple of weeks, and they won those last 2 games to get to a bowl.
Exactly. And, I kind of like the momentum I think that they have going into this. I don't know anything about Arizona's team, but, to do what they did at Indiana and then at Iowa, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I think Purdue is a team that's fired up to be playing in the Foster Farms Bowl. I think it's a fan base that's excited to be back in a bowl game. So, I like their chances of going out there and playing well. And it's in Santa Clara, California, and not Santa Carla, which always messes me up because that was the town in The Lost Boys.
Wow. Yeah.
It was Santa Carla, not. So I'm always confused. To this day, because of that movie, I have to stop and think, wait a minute, is it Santa Clara or is it Santa Carla?
I know. And is that a real town or is it fictitious town?
I think it's fake.
I think.
Yeah.
Just kind of.
I'm not sure why they couldn't just call it Santa Clara.
Yeah.
Now I'm messed up in my head because I can't remember which one it is. Hopefully, I've done that to everyone now.
Yeah. You're putting our age on us, but.
The Lost Boys was one of the funniest movies ever made. I will stand by that statement forever. I'm not sure that's what they were going for, but it's hilarious.
Oh, it is. I mean, I get it.
Very 80-ish.
Very 80-ish. Yeah. Break out the VHS and check it out. Todd, it's been fun. You got anything last minute? We're over again, but that's okay, bud. It's just
we didn't talk about the state football finals in Lexington, and congratulations to Franklin Simpson for bringing at least one championship back to Western Kentucky. The Wildcats won the 4A title, beating Johnson Central 35-21 last Saturday. Mayfield put up a good battle, but fell to Danville in the 2A
2A
championship.
That they had really hurt him. What's his name? I forget his name.
Yeah, I can't remember now.
He's a little 5'4" guy. Jay Davis was up there, and Jay actually refereed the 5A.
The 5A, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that one little guy for Danville just you know what's amazing? We were talking about this, that one county can produce so many good football players between Boyle County.
Oh yeah,
and
Danville and Boyle County both won state championships,
and they're in the same county.
Yes.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's something that there's an investigative report there for you, Todd.
But the big news out of the football finals was that they set a attendance record.
They did.
52,696 was the total for the 6 games.
Yeah.
Any
hopes of it going back to Bowling Green's probably over.
Yes, I don't see that. I know it costs a little more to do it in Lexington, and of course when Caldwell County was in the state finals a few years back, it was great to just be able to go to Bowling Green.
Oh
and,
man, it was fun too.
It's sort of an intimate setting when you get there, but let's face it, Kentucky is Kentucky, and having it at Kroger Field, Commonwealth Stadium, whatever you want to call it, somehow it's just a bigger deal when it's in Lexington.
Yeah.
Even when the state baseball was up there, when we got to go for the Class A last year and for the end of the year KHSAA state tournament. It just seems like it's a bigger deal when you go to Lexington for that thing. I think just having it at UK is a big deal. It makes it, even though there's no way in a 55, 60,000 seat stadium you're ever going to get that intimate setting that you had at Western. To me, it's why the boys basketball Sweet 16 is at Rupp, because everybody wants to play where Kentucky plays. And I'm sure you can make an argument for Louisville or a lot of other places, but to me it's just, the KHSAA offices are in Lexington. I'm sure it's a whole lot more convenient for them to do things there. It's probably as centrally located as you're going to get in the state. So I think that just makes the most sense to have it there if it's, feasible at all.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's here we go. We got to wrap on football for this year in the state, and August will be here before we know it.
Oh yeah, just as we've said before, the sports season never ends. There used to be a few gaps here and there, not anymore. It's just one season is starting before the other season even gets finished, and seems like we just got done with football and right in the middle of basketball, and baseball will be here before we know it.
Yeah, it will, and it'll be a lot of fun. So, all right.
But big game tonight at the Cab.
Yes.
Tigers and Mayfield. Again, I'm expecting that game to be really competitive, and we'll see how it goes, I guess.
And encourage everybody to head on out. Again, I think JV will tip at 6. The boys will be right after that, probably around 7:30 or so. We'll have the varsity action only here on the Tiger for you. And Eric Jacobs, Bob Hayes will have the call for you there. And we encourage you to go on out and support our Tigers. If you can't, you can catch it on the radio and on WPKYonline.com. So,
bit of a weird week in that there's no Friday night Caldwell County games, but if you want to catch the Tigers, it's tonight, and then the Lady Tigers on the road at Fort Campbell Saturday afternoon, and then home Monday against Livingston Central.
That's exactly right. All right, well, that's going to wrap it up. Todd, thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next Thursday.
Yes, a lot of fun.
9:03. Yeah, it is. And thanks to everybody out there that's listening. I hear good things when I'm out in town, and they're enjoying the show. And if you want to talk about it when I'm out, be glad to. But Todd and I are having a good time doing it, and we appreciate everybody listening to us here on the Sideline Report, brought to you by the Times Leader. That's going to wrap up this edition on this Thursday. For Todd Griffin, I'm Ty Englebright. Thanks for joining us on the Sideline Report, and I hope you have. Let me see here. Oh, we got to get our cool outro going here, Todd. Wouldn't be our show without that.
Well, we got to have Ronnie James Dio finish the show.
We got to have Ronnie James Dio finish the show. Y'all have a great Thursday, and we'll see you at the ball game later tonight. Thanks for listening to the Sideline Report, brought to you by the Times Leader, Todd Griffin, in studio to get us up to date on everything Caldwell County sports. So be sure to tune in at 9:03 every Thursday for the Sideline Report, brought to you by the Times Leader, Todd Griffin, in studio with all the sports news that you need to know. Catch it on your hometown radio station, WPKY The Tiger.